Hello, everybody, and welcome into the newest episode of the Missing Piece podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening in, and we got a really good show for you guys today. So we're going to start off with Pacers starting off the All-Star break with a good record. We'll go over some big news that came out of the last night's Pacers game. We'll go over IU's big win over Purdue and what that means for them going into March. And we'll go over, it's the Combine episode. We'll go over each position in the NFL Combine and see which ones I like, and we'll go forward from there. So I think we'll go ahead and get this party started. So the Pacers started out the All-Star break with 2 wins. They beat the Memphis Grizzlies in their first game from the All-Star break, and they beat the Los Angeles Clippers in the second game after the All-Star break. And then last night, they fell to the red-hot Denver Nuggets. So 2 out of those 3 is not bad. So Memphis is like a top 3 team in the West right now, and the Clippers are in the playoff picture right now, and so is Denver. So that was a pretty rough stretch for the Pacers after the All-Star break, and winning 2 of the 3 is really good. So, and we'll get to the big news coming out of there. So the big news is Indianapolis might be getting a Major League Soccer team. They had the commissioner of the MLS come to the Pacers game last night, and they talked with him, and they're making a bid to get a Major League Soccer team here in Indy. So hopefully, I'll let you guys know if I hear any updates from that. So, but that's an amazing news. I feel bad for the Indy 11 getting the short stick in that, but getting a Major League Soccer team would be amazing, and it will bring in so much money to the state, and it'll be amazing. So hopefully they get that done. On to the March Madness stuff. So IU with a humongous win against Purdue on Sunday, which they really needed, because if they would have lost that one, I think their season would have been basically done. But IU gets their second quality win. Their first one was beating Michigan State at Michigan State, and then beating Purdue was another one. So I think when all is said and done, I think IU's probably going to be either like one of the last 4 teams in the bracket, or they'll be one of the first teams out. So we'll definitely see. And they have about 4 games left in their regular season. They're playing Penn State right now, I believe. So let me look up that score for you guys. Which IU's going to have to beat Penn State. Oh, it's tomorrow. My bad. It's tomorrow. They play Penn State at home tomorrow night, which they're going to have to win that one. And then they go out west. They play the Huskies in Washington, and they play the Ducks at Oregon, which that's going to be a really tough one. And then you play another bubble team in Ohio State. So you're going to have to, if you're IU, if you want to be ahead of Ohio State in the bubble, you're going to have to beat Ohio State at home. But I think if IU takes care of business, and I don't know if they're going to beat Oregon at Oregon, but if they win 3 of the last 4, I think they have and if they don't get like shoved out in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, I think IU's got a really good chance of maybe sneaking in as one of those last teams in, and we'll see. But Purdue's struggling a little bit. I think they're showing their weakness, and they don't have an inside presence that can block shots defensively. I mean, obviously they lost Zach Edey, and that's a big loss. So, but if you're Purdue, you got some stuff to figure out, and some other bubble teams to watch. You got Nebraska, who lost to Michigan last night. I alluded to Ohio State earlier, North Carolina, Wake Forest, Arkansas. I think Arkansas is going to be pretty safely in. Arkansas has got some really good wins on their resume in the SEC. And the SEC is a really tough conference this year in basketball. So we'll see. Selection Sunday is about a couple weeks away. So hopefully IU can get some good wins and sneak in there into the tournament. So I think that's it with that one. So we'll go ahead and go into the position rankings. So we'll start talking about what the Colts roster, what the Colts each position, what the room looks like for the Colts, and we'll talk about the prospects that I like. So we'll start off with quarterback. So this is not a good quarterback class this year in the draft, and I think there's not really an avenue to upgrade over Anthony Richardson. So we'll start with the Colts roster currently. So right now, I believe the only quarterbacks that the Colts have on roster is Anthony Richardson. And I believe it's Jason Bean who was on the practice squad last year. So, Joe Flacco is a free agent. I don't think Joe Flacco is going to be coming back. And Sam Ehlinger is a free agent. It'll be interesting to see if they bring Sam Ehlinger back or not. And we'll get into free agency in the next episode for you guys. I think Richardson's obviously going to be the starter, but we'll see what they do at the backup. Some guys in the draft that I like, obviously you start with the top two in Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, which don't think the Colts are getting either one of those guys. Cam Ward, and you'll see there's like flaws with the top guys this year. It's not a really good quarterback class, but Cam Ward, he can make some plays happen. He's very special. He can make some really good plays happen. The problem is, it's kind of like fireworks. With fireworks, you have the warning, like you light them up and they go up in the sky and they look great, but they also come with the warning labels that you could with the warning labels on them. And I think that's the same with Cam Ward. Like those plays that he creates look pretty, but the warning label is he has a lot of turnover-worthy plays. And what I mean by that is he has a lot of plays where it could have easily turned into an interception, or he fumbled the ball. One of the two. And you look at him at Washington State, it was a problem. Like he threw interceptions at Washington State a lot and fumbled it. And it transitioned into Miami this year. Especially at the beginning of the year, he had a lot of turnover-worthy plays. Now, towards the end of the season, he got a lot better and he reined it back a little bit, but those turnover, especially when he's a rookie quarterback starting, those turnover-worthy plays are going to be there for him. And you gotta, when you're in the NFL, you can't turn the ball over. So you gotta limit those turnovers as much as you can. So that's my take on on Cam Ward. Shedeur's the next one. So Shedeur is the son of Deion Sanders. Shedeur, I think he's going to be a very good quarterback. My comp for him is Teddy Bridgewater. Like Teddy Bridgewater was, if you guys remember when Teddy Bridgewater was coming out of Louisville, he had a really good rookie season and he was a really good quarterback. He just got hurt and he never bounced back from those injuries. I think with Shedeur, do I think Shedeur is going to be a top 10 quarterback in this league? I think he has the possibility of it, but I don't think it's going to happen. But do I think Shedeur can be a plus starter in this league? And if you put a good team around him, can Shedeur lead you to wins? I definitely think he can do that. So, I think the problem with Shedeur is he got sacked a lot in college, which part of that was the Colorado offensive line not being very good. The other problem is Shedeur, when he hikes the ball and he starts going backwards, he goes like 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, which if he goes 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, it makes it very difficult for those Colorado tackles to block those edge rushers when he's so far back, and those edge rushers can just detach themselves from the tackles and just go straight for Shedeur, and it led to a lot of sacks on his fault and on his part too, and he hangs on to the ball a lot as well. But if you're Shedeur, some things you got to work on with him. His pocket presence, I think it's got to be a little better, especially when he's so far back and it's so hard for those tackles to block. He's not mobile much. He needs to be more like mobile. But he's a really good passer. He's very accurate with it. He doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. He just got to work on him being sacked a lot and that pocket presence. The two quarterbacks I think that might go day 2, the first one is Jackson Dart from Ole Miss. Jackson Dart, to me, he was really good in college. He played in a lot of big games at Ole Miss. He beat Georgia last year, and he played really well against Alabama, and I think Ole Miss almost beat Alabama, or they did beat Alabama, I can't remember. But, so Jackson Dart's no stranger to big, humongous games, being in the SEC. And he's very good. His turnover rate ratio is really good, too. He doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. But if you watch that Florida game, that was probably his worst one. But I don't think like Jackson Dart's going to be like a transitional talent at quarterback, but I think he'll be a decent one. The next one is Jalen Milroe. So the best way I can describe Jalen Milroe is he's Anthony Richardson with more college experience. And what I mean by that is, like Anthony Richardson, Jalen Milroe is a very, very talented runner. Like he's very instinctual as a runner. He's very fast. He's strong, like Anthony Richardson is. But the problem with Jalen Milroe, and it's the same problem with Anthony Richardson, Jalen Milroe is not the most accurate quarterback. His footwork is a little off, and he's not accurate with the ball. And it's the same thing with Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson's not accurate with it. So, and it showed at the Senior Bowl when he was there, he wasn't accurate with the ball. So, I think Anthony Richardson struggling is not going to help Jalen Milroe. But that's the best way I can describe Jalen Milroe is he's Anthony Richardson with more college experience. Some day 3 guys that I think the Colts could potentially take that might maybe you get a hit on them, like the Seahawks did with Russell Wilson or the Cowboys did with Dak Prescott. The first one that comes to mind is Will Howard from Ohio State. Will Howard was amazing in the college football playoffs, and he was a big reason why Ohio State won the national championship, is because Will Howard just really stepped up and was amazing in the college football playoffs. And if you're going to take a quarterback day 3 and maybe get a hit, you take a quarterback that has a lot of experience, and Will Howard does have that with his time at Kansas State and then his year at Ohio State this year. So another quarterback that fits that mold of he has a lot of experience that I don't mind taking, and I think his ceiling is a really good back. He could turn into a really good backup or a plus starter is Dillon Gabriel from Oregon. Dillon Gabriel's on the smaller side of being a quarterback, but Dillon Gabriel has a lot of starters experience in college. He started at Central Florida. He transferred to Oklahoma for a year and started there. And then obviously he started this year for Oregon. But with Dillon Gabriel, my comparison for him is he's a diet version of Tua Tagovailoa. And what I mean by that is they're both lefties, which doesn't really matter. But him and Tua's game is very similar because Dillon Gabriel's not going to throw the ball 80 yards. And he doesn't have a big arm, but what he does do well is he doesn't turn the ball over very much, for one, and for two, he's very accurate in the middle to short passes. He's very good with those, so I think Dillon Gabriel might turn into, I think at worst he'll be a really good backup for you. At best, I think he could turn into a plus starter for you. So, we'll move on to the running back class, which is very good this year. So for the Colts running back room currently, they have 2 on the roster. Jonathan Taylor, obviously, and they have Tyler Goodson. Trey Sermon is a free agent. If I'm the Colts, I would not bring him back. He had really good season in 2023, especially in that Pittsburgh game. But he did not do enough for me to like him at running back too. And the Colts, I think, really need to find someone that's going to help Jonathan Taylor out. So I think with that, we'll get into the running back class. So obviously the first name that pops into everyone's mind is Ashton Jeanty, the running back from Boise State, who the Colts did meet with Ashton Jeanty today at the Combine. But I don't think they're going to take Ashton Jeanty unless they trade Jonathan Taylor away, which I don't think they're going to do. But Ashton Jeanty obviously had an amazing year this year and was finished second in the Heisman voting behind the Heisman winner in Travis Hunter. But Ashton Jeanty had an amazing season this year for Boise State. Very talented runner. I think him and Jonathan Taylor would be very scary and would keep defensive coordinators up at night. But we'll see what happens with that one. But I don't think they're going to take Ashton Jeanty round 1. Some guys round 2 that I like for the Colts, which could be a possibility if they go out in free agency and sign like a free safety in a corner, like a starting corner and a starting linebacker. I could see them say, you know what, we could take a running back round 2 or round 3. Some round 2 guys that I like, Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. I really like Omarion Hampton, and again, him and Jonathan Taylor, that'd be really fun to watch, and I think that would keep defensive coordinators up at night. The other one that I think would be a really good fit next to Jonathan Taylor is Quinshon Judkins from Ohio, one of the 2 Ohio State running backs that I will talk about here. Quinshon Judkins is very good at the stuff that Jonathan Taylor needs to work on, and he's really good at catching it out of the backfield, for one, and for 2, he's really, really good at pass blocking. He's very willing pass blocker, and he will hit people to pass block, and he's very good at it. So, Quinshon Judkins, and you got to deal with the Raiders. So the Raiders hired Chip Kelly as their offensive coordinator, and I would imagine Chip Kelly would want to bring, and Chip Kelly was the offensive coordinator at Ohio State this past year, so I would imagine Chip Kelly would want to bring one of his running backs with him to Vegas, but Quinshon Judkins would be an amazing get in round 2. Some other running backs that I like, some round 3 guys, Dylan Sampson from Tennessee would be really good. He's kind of like that Nyheim Hines type where he's really good at catching it, and he's very elusive in open space. Cam Skattebo, I love Cam Skattebo. Cam Skattebo and if you watched Arizona State this year, they were a very good team, and they had Sam Levitt at quarterback, and Cam Skattebo was the running back, and Cam Skattebo just did everything for that Arizona State offense. He caught it, he ran it, he was very good at pass blocking, so Cam Skattebo would be a really good one. Caleb Johnson from Iowa. If you want to know the reason why Iowa's offense was so much better this year as opposed to 2023, it was because of Caleb Johnson took that major step forward and became Iowa's offense. So Caleb Johnson's a really good one out of Iowa. If you're looking at day 3 guys, Damian Martinez from Miami is really good. A Kansas guy, Devin Neal. Chris Ballard would know the Kansas guys very well because his son plays football for Kansas. So Chris Ballard, I think, would have the inside scoop on any of the Kansas guys. And Devin Neal is probably the best Kansas prospect that's coming out this year at running back. So DJ Giddens from Kansas State would be a really good one. RJ Harvey from Central Florida. You got Kyle Monangai from Rutgers, and if you watched Rutgers' offense this year, it's 90% of the offense this year was just handing the ball off to Kyle Monangai. So, like I said, this is a very talented running back class this year. So those are just some of the guys that I like for the Colts. Wide receiver, it's a good class, but it's not as great as like the 2020 class, or it's not as good as last year's class. I think the wide receiver room for the Colts is a really good one right now. You got Michael Pittman, who was injured last year, but coming off a 2023 season, he was really good. Alec Pierce had a career year this year. Josh Downs is just amazing. Josh Downs. So, A.D. Mitchell, he's got some talent on him from Texas. Hopefully, you see some steps forward from him next year. But we'll see how A.D. Mitchell does next year. And you got Ashton Dulin and Anthony Gould, who are your special teams guys. So I like this wide receiver room a lot. I would imagine. So the number one wide receiver actually, I'll talk about Travis Hunter first. So Travis Hunter was the Heisman winner out of Colorado. He played both wide receiver and corner at Colorado. I don't think Travis Hunter is going to be much of a wide receiver in the NFL. I think he's going to primarily play corner, and I think they're going to whoever takes him is probably going to primarily play him at corner and sprinkle him in on offense for some plays. And I just thought I'd mention Travis Hunter, but we'll talk about him more when we get to the corners. But I think by far and away the best wide receiver in this class is Teortra McMillan from Arizona. Very talented. I think wide receiver 2 in this class is probably Luther Burden from Missouri. And Luther Burden to me I think Luther Burden would be really good depending on where he goes. So, like, if he goes to, like, a team that's going to know how to utilize his skills, that would be really good for him. And what I mean by that is Luther Burden, he's not, like, the best route runner. But what he is very, very good at is he's very good at taking those short passes and getting yards after the catch. He's very good at that, and I think he's like a better version of Malachi Corley or a lesser version of Deebo Samuel. Like, you need to use Luther Burden as like a down low receiving target that your quarterback can just dunk it down to, and you just let him get yards after the catch. That's what Luther Burden is. So a team like Denver, I think, would be really good for him with Bo Nix, who likes to check it down to wide receivers, and you just let Luther Burden go get yards after the catch. Pittsburgh would also be a really good place for him to go, because if you're Pittsburgh, you already have that deep threat in George Pickens. You can just let Luther Burden be the underneath guy and let him get yards after the catch. So Luther Burden, I think, in the right situation would be really good for teams. I think Emeka Ibuka from Ohio State's going to be a really good slot receiver for people. Whoever takes him. Matthew Golden from Texas is a really speedy, deep threat option for you, like a Tyreek Hill. His teammate, Isaiah Bond from Texas, is going to be really good. Trey Harris out of Ole Miss is going to be really good as well. Alec Iomanner from Stanford is one I really like. He's kind of, the reason you don't hear about him very much is because he went to Stanford, and Stanford wasn't really good this year, but he's kind of like that Hines Ward type, where he's not afraid to get blocks in, and he catches the ball a lot, and I like Iomanner is really good. Jaden Higgins from Iowa State had a really good Senior Bowl. Tez Johnson from Oregon also had a really good Senior Bowl. Tez Johnson's an interesting one because if you guys know me, I'm pretty small, and Tez Johnson's my height at 5'7". But Tez Johnson knows how to get open and catch the ball, and he showed that at the Senior Bowl. So, and then the darling of the Senior Bowl, I think this year, was Jake Beck from TCU. He's got an amazing story behind him, but Jake Beck's probably going to go really high in this class. So those are some wide receivers I like. Moving on to tight ends, which if you're the Colts, you need to circle this position in red because this is a really big need on this team right now. And if you want Anthony Richardson to take that next step, you need to get him like a tight end that he can rely on. The tight end group for this Colts team right now, and it's not good. The ones under contract currently are Drew Ogletree, which Drew Ogletree has shown you some glimpses, but not as much to be a tight end one. Jelani Woods, who's injury prone and has not played for the past 2 seasons. And you have the tight end out of Miami that the Colts took. And that's just, not good enough. And then their free agent tight ends, you got Mo Alley Cox, who I don't mind bringing back, but I do not want him to be tight end 1 on this team. And you got Kylen Granson, which I'm probably letting Kylen Granson walk in free agency. So for this tight end class is very good, and we'll start with the number 1 guy I think Colts fans want on this team, and me included, is Tyler Warren from Penn State, who just is amazing and does everything. He can block, he can catch it, you can play him at Wildcat at quarterback. Penn State moved him around a lot. He played quarterback in high school, so you can put him at quarterback. You can put him at fullback, running back. Penn State used him as a running back in the red zone. You could play him as a slot receiver. You can play him in line as a tight end. Like, Tyler Warren just does everything. And imagine a red zone offense with Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, and you have that wild card ability with Tyler Warren in the red zone. Like, that'd be a hard Colts offense to stop in the red zone. The other one that's going to go the first round is Colston Loveland from Michigan. If the Colts move back and take Colston Loveland, I wouldn't mind that. Colston Loveland is more of the receiving tight end. He's more of like the Travis Kelce, where he's not a great blocker, but you put him in like the slot or you put him out wide, and if you throw the ball to him and it hits his hands, he's catching it 90% of the time. Like, Colston Loveland is so good. Some other tight ends I really like in this class, Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green. Harold Fannin Jr., he's a really good receiving one. You need to work with him on some stuff, and I believe the Colts coached him at the Senior Bowl, but Harold Fannin Jr. is a really good one, big guy. Elijah Arroyo from Miami is really good as well. Mason Taylor, who's the son of Jason Taylor. Mason Taylor at LSU is really good. Gunnar Helm from Texas, if you need a receiving tight end. Gunnar Helm had a breakout year for Texas this year. Some guys, day 3, that I really like. Mitch Evans from Notre Dame is really good. Terrence Ferguson from Oregon had a really good Senior Bowl. Luke Lakey, who's taken a step back as a receiving tight end, but is a really good blocking tight end for you. So, those are some of the tight ends I like in this class, and it's a really good tight end class. Offensive tackles. So, offensive tackle-wise, you got Bernhard Raimann at left tackle. That's not going to change. Bernhard Raimann's a staple there. Braden Smith is there for now, but I think Braden Smith is definitely a cut candidate, because if you cut Braden Smith, you save about $20 million in cap space this offseason. So I think maybe cutting Braden Smith would be a really good idea. You got Matt Gonzalez, who's probably ready to take over right tackle. Blake Freeland, who's your swing tackle. So those are your 4 tackles on this team currently. So the big name guys, you got Will Campbell from LSU, who's I think going to be more of a guard because he's got small hands. But Will Campbell will be really good. Kelvin Banks from Texas would also be a really good one, who can play inside at guard and tackle. Josh Simmons from Ohio State is a very interesting one. So Josh Simmons, pre-injury, was amazing. He put great tape out there. He's the tackle from Ohio State. The problem is, and you're going to get some answers this weekend, is he tore his ACL and he missed the rest of the season at Ohio State. So, depending on how his injury is, Josh Simmons would be a really good one. Armand Membo from Missouri would be a really good one. Armand Membo's got a guard tackle ability as well, and I think he's going to test really well at the combine. So he may overtake Kelvin Banks as tackle too. Marcus Mbao from Purdue, who's more of the inside guard who can move out the tackle, is a really good one. Some inside offensive linemen I really like. Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. I love Gray Zabel, and he had a really good Senior Bowl. Gray Zabel can play anywhere on this offensive line. He can play center. He can play either guard spot. He can play either tackle spot. I think in the NFL he's more of a guard, but he's really good. Travis Booker from Alabama, who's getting some really high praise. probably going to go round 1. Wyatt Milam from West Virginia, which, if you're Chris Ballard, Wyatt Milam really fits the profile that Chris Ballard likes in his offensive lineman. Those are just some of the offensive linemen I like. I forgot to go interior offensive lineman for the Colts. So, Ryan Kelly's a free agent, but you have Tanner Bordolini, who's probably going to take over at center for him. And then you got Quentin Nelson at left guard, which Quentin Nelson's just amazing at left guard. And then right guard's a question mark as well. So Will Fries is going to be a free agent. Depending on what his medicals look like, I would probably bring him back just to have that continuity at right guard and knowing that you can sleep well at night knowing you got a really good right guard there in Will Fries. But behind Will Fries, if Will Fries leaves, I think right guard is going to be a big need. So I think interior offensive line's an underrated need for the Colts. And speaking of underrated needs, I think we'll go over defensive line. So for the edge rushers, obviously this group this year was really hurt. You have Latu, who you took in the first round last year. Dayo Dangbo's a free agent this year. And I'll get into, like, Chris Ballard might love a perfect replacement for him in one of these guys, and I'll get to him in a minute. You have Tyquan Lewis, who got hurt again last year. Hopefully Tyquan can stay healthy. He's got 1 year left on his deal. Kwity Paye's got 1 year left on his deal as well. So edge rusher is a very underrated need, because if you don't want to pay Kwity Paye, you may need another edge rusher to go along with Latu going forward. So some edge rushers I like in this class. Obviously, the big name one is Abdul Carter from Penn State. I don't think the Colts are going to get him. He's probably going to go, he's definitely going to go top 2, top 3. So there's no chance you're getting Abdul Carter. Mike Green from Marshall, I really like. So Mike Green's a very underrated prospect. He played at Marshall this year, which doesn't play high talent, but he's really good, and he's got really good tape on him. So watch out for Mike Green. James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee, really good as well. Mikael Williams from Georgia, I really like. Some other guys, Nick Scorington, who, if you guys know that name, he was at Purdue, and he transferred out of Purdue and went to Texas A&M this year and had a really good year for them. The one guy I alluded to earlier as a perfect Dayo Odengo replacement is Shamar Turner from Texas A&M, who, if you want to build a defensive lineman for Chris Ballard, Shamar Turner out of Texas A&M would be that. I think Chris Ballard would love Shamar Turner. And let's just say Dayo leaves and Tyler Warren is gone and you've already signed a free safety in free agency. I think Shamar Turner is going to be very high on Chris Ballard's draft board, and I think he's going to be itching at the bit to take him because, there's no Dayo and you got someone right there to replace him. So, some other edge rushers I like, Jack Sawyer from Ohio State, really good edge rusher. Obviously you watched Ohio State this year. He's really good. JT Tuimoloau, his running mate out of Ohio State, is also really good. Princely Umanmielen, I don't know if I pronounced his name right. I'm really bad at pronouncing names. Teammate of Anthony Richardson's at Florida. He transferred to Ole Miss this year. Was really good. Landon Jackson from Arkansas. Really good in round 2. So those are some of the edge rusher guys, and it's really good edge rusher class this year. And defensive tackle. This one for the Colts is also a very big need. Obviously, you have your 2 starters in Buckner and Stewart, but the problem is both those guys are north of 30, and if you're thinking 2, 3, 4 years down the line, Buckner and Stewart are not going to be here forever, and you need to start thinking about life after Buckner and Stewart. So I think in defensive tackle is going to be a very underrated need, and this is a very, very good defensive tackle class. It's very good. So don't be surprised again, if they sign a free safety in free agency and they get a veteran corner in here, if they go defensive tackle early in this draft, obviously the best one in this draft class is Mason Graham out of Michigan. That's just, Mason Graham's really good, and there's no way that Mason Graham's going to be there for the Colts at 14. He will be long gone. This guy I really like, and I don't mind the Colts taking him round 1. And that's Walter Nolen from Ole Miss. Walter Nolen had an amazing Senior Bowl, and he's a very talented defensive tackle. And I think if you're the Colts, you take Walter Nolen, you have him learn from Buckner, and this is what the Eagles do. The Eagles take young talent and they have them learn from veterans, and by the time the veterans are out the door, the young talent is ready to move in. So this would be like a Philadelphia Eagles type thinking, taking Walter Nolen. Because with Walter Nolen, he would be able to get reps at defensive tackle because Grover Stewart's coming off the field on obvious passing downs on like third and longs. So that's when you get Walter Nolen in there and you have him get reps with DeForest Buckner. But that would be like forward thinking, because then it's like, okay, we have a Walter Nolen in here who is going to be the future at defensive tackle, while you have Buckner and Stewart ahead of them, and you can rotate Walter Nolen in. So, excuse me. So Walter Nolen, keep an eye on him from Ole Miss. This is another guy I really like. Had an amazing Senior Bowl, and if he nails the combine, and if he does well at his pro day, he may have played himself from a day 3 pick to a round 1 pick, and that's Darius Alexander from Toledo. He is very good. Man, talk about skyrocketing his draft stock, and he's from Indiana. He's from Fort Wayne, Indiana. So he's a homegrown talent. I love Darius Alexander. He's got the inside-outside ability as well. You can put him at edge rusher. You can put him at defensive tackle. So Darius Alexander's another one. Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham's teammate at Michigan, is also really good. So look out for Kenneth Grant. Derek Harmon from Oregon's also really good. Deion Walker from Kentucky, also really good. TJ Sanders from South Carolina. He's getting some first round buzz. So this defensive tackle class is really good, and don't be surprised if the Colts end up taking one early. Linebacker class. So linebacker, going into last year, I didn't think linebacker was going to be a big need, because you had Franklin and Speed, who were really good the year prior. That went down the drain this year, because obviously Zaire Franklin took a step back last year and provided some off-the-field drama and just not captain behavior that you would expect from him. And EJ Speed led the league in missed tackles. EJ Speed's a free agent. I personally would not bring him back. So I think linebacker is a very big need. I'd imagine they're going to sign some linebackers. I know Jermaine Pratt's a trade target from the Bengals to come with Lou Anarumo here. We'll get into linebackers free agency next week. But some linebackers in this draft that I really like. This first one, I think, would be really good, and I think Lou Anarumo would have a lot of fun with him. And that's Jihad Campbell from Alabama. So Jihad Campbell, it's interesting with him because in high school he was an edge rusher. And then he went to Alabama and they moved him to linebacker. So he's very good at rushing the passer. So he's got that edge rusher mentality in him. And he's a very good tackler, very physical. I think Lou Anarumo would have a bunch of fun with him, using him in blitz packages. I think Jihad can't, and if the Colts move back, let's say Tyler Warren's gone and the Colts move back in the first round, I think Jihad Campbell would be a really good one, and I think Lou Anarumo would have a lot of fun with him. Jalen Walker from Georgia also is kind of the same way. Jalen Walker, Georgia kind of used him as like an edge rusher / linebacker this year as well, so you got 2 linebackers in that linebacker, edge rusher mold. Some other guys I really like. Demetrius Knight from South Carolina is really good. He's prototypical Ballard linebacker that he would really like. He had a really good Senior Bowl. I think he's going to be high on Ballard's draft board. So watch out for Demetrius Knight from South Carolina. Here's the obvious one from Indiana, Jack Kaiser from Notre Dame. From a small school in Indiana to Notre Dame, and he killed the Senior Bowl. So Jack Kaiser, I think, would be a very obvious Ballard pick on day 3. Jeffrey Bassa from Oregon, who also had a really good Senior Bowl. So this linebacker class, there's some really good linebackers in this class. So those are just 5 of them that I really like. Corner, obviously, Juju Brents can't stay healthy. You got Juju Brents right now, which I don't think you can rely on Juju Brents to stay healthy now. You got Jalen Jones, who I admit has outplayed his draft position at round 7, but I don't want to rely on him as a full-time starter. I think he'd be a really good bench corner that if you need him to start like a game or 2, he can easily do it. But, I wouldn't rely on him starting 17 games. Samuel Womack, again, really good story. You picked him up on free agent, on waiver wires. Had some really good moments for you last year, but again, I really would not rely on him being a starting corner. Kenny Moore, obviously, best nickel corner in the league. So corner, I think, is a big need. And we'll get into free agent corners next week, which I think the Colts are going to sign a veteran one, which they need. But corners, obviously, I alluded to Travis Hunter earlier. Travis Hunter's just so talented at both positions. There's no way that Travis Hunter is going to be there for the Colts. I would love that, but there's no way. This one is going to be a really interesting one. If he falls to the Colts, I wouldn't mind taking him, and that's Will Johnson from Michigan. So Will Johnson going into last year was really good, and prior to his injury, he was really good, but he got hurt, and now he's kind of fallen because he got hurt, and you look at, he's probably going to have some medicals this week, and he's not the only corner that's going to be very interested in medicals, but Will Johnson, if he falls a little bit, I think that's a blue chip talent that you take. And if you have a veteran corner and you got Will Johnson and you got Juju Brents and Jalen Jones, all of a sudden corner becomes a really strong part of this team. Siobhan Revell from East Carolina, he's another one that going to be very interested in the medicals because he tore his ACL and did not play this year, but he's going to be doing stuff at the combine, so I'm interested to see what the medicals are. Another corner with very interesting medicals that's coming up is Benjamin Morrison for Notre Dame. Benjamin Morrison was really good in 2023. He was good this year, but he hurt his hip, which, if you're a corner, having a hip injury is really bad. So, I think with Benjamin Morrison, very interested to see what the medicals are. That'll impact where he's going to go in the draft. Some other guys that I really like going into day 2. Trey Amos from Ole Miss. Really physical, fast corner from Ole Miss. I like Trey Amos. Max Hairston from Kentucky. Another physical corner. This corner, I think, is Ballard would love because he fits kind of that Rock Ya-Sin, Juju Brents mold, and that's Darian Porter Jr. from Iowa State. He's really good, and I think he would really fit what the Colts really like in corners. So look out for him. Azariah Thomas is another one from Florida State. Really good physical corner. You got the 2 Ohio State boys in Denzel Burke and Davison Igbinosun. Igbinosun's a really good one. I think would be really good in Lou Anarumo's defense. I think we'll end corners there. Get into safety, which is a big, big need. Because right now, Julian Blackmon's a free agent. I don't know if they're going to bring him back. Had a bit of a down year, but he was playing hurt the whole year because they had nobody behind him. So on this roster right now, you got Nick Cross, who had a good season this year. He took a step forward. I think he's playing his natural position now at strong safety. So we'll see how he does, but I don't, free safety is a big need, and we'll talk about some free agent safeties that Chris Ballard might sign. But some obvious ones, you got the other pick in the first round for the Colts I think fans would like, and that's Malachi Starks from Georgia. Had a really good 2023 season, was kind of quiet this year, but still, Malachi Starks is a really good safety. The other one I think the Colts fans just love, and I love him too, Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. I love Xavier Watts. He's got a really good story behind him as well. And if the Colts take him, I'll tell it. But I love Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. Another one I really like is Nicky Manwari from South Carolina. He's really good too. I think Lou Anarumo would have a lot of fun with him because he's a maniac getting to the ball. Like, in his mind, it's see ball, get ball. So I think Lou Anarumo would have a lot of fun with Nicky Manwari. Jahdae Barron from Texas is listed as a safety, but I think Lou Anarumo would have a lot of fun with him too because you could put him at corner, inside or outside corner. You could put him at either safety spot. So I think Jahdae Barron, you can really move him around, and I think that'd be fun. Kevin Winston Jr. from Penn State's a really good one. Andrew Mukba from Texas, who the Colts coached at the Senior Bowl, is a really good one. Rod Moore from Michigan, I think, would be a solid starting free safety for you. Sebastian Castro from Iowa, he's another fun one where you can move him around too because he's played corner, safety. You know, you can move Sebastian Castro around. Malachi Moore from Alabama would be a really good steal day 3. This safety class is a good one too. So I think that's it. Those are the prospects that I would look out for the Colts. So we'll see how the combine goes, and we will get into free agents next week. But until then, thank you guys so much for listening in, and I will catch you all next week.